Greetings, geniuses. This video is going to cover another topic from the INFJ perspective, as usual. And we're going to talk about overcoming fear. And I'm going to try to give you some specific and general tips, experience that you can use to overcome whatever it is that you're facing, whether it's personally or with your career, work, friends, family, whatever it may be. And as usual, I'm going to be as far-reaching as possible and sometimes not specific as possible, because I want this to not just be useful for INFJs, but for all 16 personalities and all circumstances. But when we talk about a subject such as fear and overcoming it, there's certain things that are the same for everyone, and things that we have to get past, but observe initially. So that would be my step one, that I would suggest to you, that whatever you're facing, just take note of what that fear is exactly and give it a name. Give it something you can kind of put your finger on and say, this is what I'm afraid of. So if it is maybe disappointing somebody, the fear of letting somebody down, or the fear of not being good enough, if it's maybe a goal that you want to achieve, if it's physical fear of somebody else, that is, of course, in a totally different category. And I would just recommend that you take immediate action to get out of that situation, because when we're talking about something like that, where it's fear of somebody else, you don't have that much control over it as long as you keep yourself in that position. So that's a very important one. If you're dealing with that, it's time to take hasty action of some sort, and your life is going to be sort of held up in limbo until you get out of that situation, and it's going to affect everything. So that would be my short answer on that one. But again, back to observing and naming what our fear is. We have to know exactly what it is, and we can't solve problems or move on until we know first what it is, and then we can devise our strategy on how to get past it, or at least begin to move away from the fear and to have more confidence in ourselves, more strength, power, wisdom, all those things. And so let's talk about the fear of not being good enough. A lot of us have that issue in some shape or form in our lives when it comes to moving on to the next level of what our dreams are, what our goals are in life. And I could just tell you a few things from my own experience, and that is, I would say I've had a fairly slow but steady stream of improving myself and taking things up to the next level over the last, 20, 25 years. And in hindsight, pretty much every step of the way, I could say I wish I would have pushed a little harder, a little further, push myself in a good way, because so many of the fears that we have are just in our heads and hypothetical situations that, oh, what if this, what if that? But then when you actually do it, and again, in hindsight, when I actually pushed on to the next level and finally said, oh, I don't care what anyone says, or I just don't care how it goes. If it goes bad, I'm going to learn from the experience and I'm going to do it. That most of the time it was just great. Even if things didn't go great, just the fact that I got past the fear and moved on to one more notch higher than I had ever been before. It was like an awakening experience and just joy and more self-confidence and self-esteem. And no, it didn't feel like, oh, I've arrived now and, everything's amazing. No, it wasn't like that. But in hindsight, it kind of was, because I didn't even realize at the time that next step was going to get me to the next step and the next step. And so in actuality, if I look back 20 years and look back how far I've come, then yes, it has been kind of amazing. And it wasn't anything miraculous that I did at the time or each of those stages in life. It was literally just pushing through the fear and kind of having that moment where, like I said, it's just kind of thinking, it doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter, even if my worst fear comes true, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to be a better person for it. But most of the time, it's not your worst fear that happens. And a lot of those worst experiences are the worst because they catch us off guard, and they're just things that come up in life, tragic events or like a death of a friend or family member. Those are the worst events that really come up most of the time. The ones that surprise us, not the ones that we're actually already thinking of and kind of geared into what's going to happen next. So that could be a work situation or personal. So I hope that makes sense, because we just think so much in our head about the negative very easily. And it's another reason why I always say that just having the positive mindset and really working on that and just being consistent with your daily habits and looking forward and just kind of pushing through consistently is so important, because it really does domino effect in a good way. But it takes a few weeks, few months, and years to just keep improving at it. But I guess I am a testimony to this, that I wasn't, even 5 years ago, I was not talking about positive mindset and taking action on a daily basis. I wasn't using any of those kinds of catchphrases, and never wanted it to be just a wordplay game trying to convince anybody how to improve themselves. Probably goes to the INFJ thinking too, that I want to be authentic, and if I am going to motivate or inspire anybody, I want it to be 100% accurate and true and authentic. So I guess to maybe finish up and talk a little bit more about fear, I would go back to, again, you have to know what the fear is. You have to identify it. And I kind of think of it as making it your enemy, because fear is our enemy. Just like love is the opposite of fear. And you have to kind of despise it, because fear is trying to break you down, trying to make you weaker, trying to stop you from becoming what you were created to be. And so it's okay to despise that and want to work against it. Not that you should be going through your daily life thinking, oh, I hate you, fear, and I hate things, or anything like that. But I was talking a video or two ago about just using the thought of when people don't support you or even mocking you or something like that, they don't think you're going to be anything special. Using that mindset that negativity to propel you to the next level. It's kind of the same thing with fear, because again, from my own experiences, I could just kind of look back and see that when I had a certain boss or somebody that was essentially putting fear into my life, my mind, by the way they acted towards me, and it was stopping me from doing what I wanted to do. When I got to the point where I just kind of said, enough, I'm not going to fear this anymore, and I don't care what he says, what she says, how they look at me, that was the moment that everything changed. And once I took those steps and moved past it, I was never going to go back to that old fear again. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to have new fears or other things that pop up along the way, but it's the confidence that you get each time you overcome one of those fears that is really going to change everything for your future and where you're headed. So I'm not sure if I talked about enough specifics in this video, but I hope I gave you some fuel to overcome whatever it may be that you're dealing with, because we all have different fears and people or events, things that get in our way and try to stop us. But I'm just here to encourage you to figure out exactly what it is, figure out that exact fear, and then start making your plan and strategy to move past it and move in the right direction into love and grace. And you got to love yourself. So other people are often not going to do it. So you have to give yourself love, and you have to have confidence in yourself and not worry about what other people think of you. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years. So I'll look forward to bringing you another video soon. And until next time, I'll see you soon, genius.